Hey, what's up, everyone? Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday, Facebook Live. Happy Sunday, YouTube. I hope everybody is good. I hope that everyone had a great week and a relaxing or enjoyable weekend. Thank you for joining me and welcome to our the first series, the first part of the series, the building series. So I introduced it last week, and it's a series that I'm excited about bringing to you. And it's based off of some things that I've experienced lately, and without going so far back into what I experienced, I'm gonna uh, kind of help bring you all up to speed of why I did this series or why I decided to do this series. So, right, where do we start? So my daughter is 4 years old. She started her kindergarten this year. She started kindergarten this year, and we had an experience that wasn't so great, but all has turned out well. She's removed out of the school, and she's in a school that we want her to be in, that we're really excited for her to be in. But the school that she was in previously really left so much to be desired that I was like, I have to talk about just what aspects of schools I feel like some schools are missing, that they don't realize that it's a school's obligation to do or to bring forward or to have as being a factor in the school. And so I decided to start this building series. And basically, it'll be a three-part series, with today being the first part, and it'll be talking about the different things that a school should have in it, right? To be able to have the children be their most successful, because that's what schools are supposed to be, right? That's my impression of schools, that it's supposed to be an environment that fosters children's development and allows them to grow to be the best version of themselves. Now, some people might argue with this, right? Some people might say that schools are for just the academics and should, really focus. And I'm talking mainly about the lower grades, because that's my field. My field's early childhood, which is birth to second grade. And so, some people might say that schools are for the academics, and parents are supposed to do all of the other stuff, and the home is supposed to do all the other stuff. I come from a different school of thought, right? I think about the whole child. I think about parents, teachers, and the environment working together to help the child develop, right? I don't just think about it as, you go to school to get your academics and then you do the other stuff elsewhere, right? That's just not my thinking. So, with that said, the first part of the building series will be relationship building, right? So the school building should be a place that also focuses on relationship building. And so I got like all these like little notes here so I don't forget. But let's see, let's get into it. All right. So when my daughter first started kindergarten this year, we went to an orientation with the teacher. We had to meet both teachers, and the parents were gathered in the classroom, and the teacher spoke to the parents and like introduced them. It was supposed to, bring us all together and get us knowledgeable about what to expect. So the teacher started off by just saying, "Hi, I'm Mrs." Her name, and she said, "And this is my teaching partner, Mrs." her name, and she's like, "And we are here to talk about how to get your children prepared for the first grade." And she just began to talk about all the things academic that the children would be going into. So the curriculum that we do is this. The first couple of weeks we're going to be learning this, and I was already turned off by her introduction. Like, I was so turned off by her introduction. My husband kind of like tapped me, and was, because he could see it in my face that I was like, that was terrible, right? My opinion, but it was terrible. And the reason why is because, she started off by saying, we're here to like get your children ready for the first grade. And I'm thinking to myself, like, this is not even the first day of kindergarten. And yes, we're aware that the next stage is first grade, but I'd love to hear about how you are just going to work on like getting to know the children and acclimating them. Because for some children, this is their first school experience. Like my daughter happens not to be. She's been in pre-K and in the threes program and the twos program and things like that. But for some of the children, it's their first time being in school, and so it's like get them ready for first grade. Not so much, right? Like tell me what you're gonna do to help acclimate them and get them comfortable in kindergarten, in the present grade. Like deal with the present. And yes, the present prepares you for the future, and so we get that that's important. But I didn't like hearing her say that, right? So fast forward where she's talking and she's talking about what to expect and what supplies they'll need, blah 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 blah. And then she is like, "Oh, does anyone have questions?" And no one has questions, and well, no one except for me. And then I like nudged my husband and told him to ask a certain question because after I thought that I had said too much or spoke so much that I wanted him to like speak up to. But no one had any other questions. And I said to the teacher before she wrapped up, "Hey, Miss So-and-so, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, I know your name because you introduced yourself saying your name, but," and my words were, "Can you tell us about yourself? Like, how long have you been teaching here? How long, have you been teaching? Anything that you can share with us?" And she looked really taken aback. She was like, "Oh, okay." And so she was like, she looked a little nervous actually, and I can make an assumption about that. To me, the assumption was that no one's ever asked her that before, or perhaps she might not feel so comfortable about speaking about herself. I don't know. Like none of that was anything that I cared about at the moment. I just wanted to know more about her because I'm leaving my child with you. I'm leaving my child with you. She's going to be with you 5 days a week for 6 hours and a half, 6 hours, 20 minutes, right? I want to know about you, right? Even though she got accepted into your school and accepted into your class, the fact that I have to drop her off tomorrow and it starts 6 hours and 20 minutes of being with you, tell me about yourself. And so she did, like she obliged, and she mentioned that she's been teaching at that school for 12 years. She mentioned that she's married, and she's been married for some odd years, I don't remember. She has 2 grown-up children. One is in medical school, one does something. And as she's speaking, you can see the crowd start to smile. And like I promise you, I felt the whole room just like relax. Like everybody's shoulders became more relaxed. Even mine, I was just like, oh, okay, good. She's a mom, right? She's a mom, so that means that there's something that we share in common. It doesn't necessarily mean that we mother the same way or parent the same way, but she's a mom, and that helps me to know that I'm leaving my children and my daughter in the hands of someone else who is a mother. And so there was that incident that said to me, this is important for these relationships to be encouraged and to get to know one another, to be encouraged in a school environment. And then something else occurred, like 2 weeks while my daughter was in school. Every day I would ask her certain things about, like, what did she do? Tell me about your day. Tell me about who you spoke to. Tell me about who you sat next to in the cafeteria. Tell me about when you were at recess. What did you do, and who did you talk to, and what did you talk about? These are the kinds of questions that I ask my daughter when we're leaving school and walking home, and then sometimes when I'm bathing her at night, just so that we can have some conversation about her day. I'm interested to know about it, and it also helps her to articulate her day, helps vocabulary and all of those wonderful things. But after 2 weeks, I realized that she wasn't able to tell me anyone's name in her class. She would say this boy and this girl and the one with the long ponytail and the what, and I was just like, Like, I don't expect for her to run down 20 8 other children's names. I don't expect that at all. However, you sit at the table with like people. You sit on the rug with people every day. And it made me wonder, like, what kinds of things are the teachers doing in the classroom to help the children get to know one another, right? And it made me once again just realize relationship building, socialization is very important in a school environment, right? Some parents are have the mindset that, oh, my children don't go to school to make friends. They don't go to school to build relationships. They have cousins. They have whatever for that. They have, we do this, that, and other. Let school be for the learning. Once again, like I said, that's an opinion. To each his own. For me, relationship building is so key, especially with children learning one another, because they have to, once again, be with those children all day long. And so fostering that relationship is going to be really crucial to those moments where they have to say, hey, I dropped my pencil, can you pick it up, can you pass it to me? So they can feel comfortable with the person that they're sitting next to be able to have those kinds of big or small conversations, right? Those big or small little words exchanged with one another. And so why is relationship building so important to me? You already know that it's important to me. I said it. But why? Right? So I'm thinking about trust and the fact that it builds trust with one another, and that's important since you're going to see each other so frequently and be with each other. Communication, I just said that. So speaking, teachers speaking to parents, parents speaking to children, their child and other children in the classroom, parents speaking to other parents. Those relationships are really important, and the communication is going to be really key throughout the year to just foster success or to encourage success for the school year. Then also like partnerships. So it helps to build partnerships, and that's really important for teachers to be able to feel like they can build a partnership with the parents who are sending their children in every single day. A sense of togetherness, a sense of camaraderie, like community building. A community is not just a place where you live, that you live in. It's also the place where you have to do your daily things of the day. And so in the classroom, children they do things like in some classroom settings, they're napping, so they're sleeping in the same space with each other. They're eating in the same space with each other. Hey, they're using the bathroom in the same space with each other. They are learning. They are hopefully laughing and having moments of enjoyment together. It is a community. The classroom community is a community. And so building on those relationships can help build that community of the classroom. And then comfort. And this is something that I thought about because of how uncomfortable my daughter was in the school that she was in for the beginning of the school year. Comfort is important in a school setting. When you are comfortable, it like physically, when you are physically and emotionally comfortable, it's more likely that you are going to be open to hearing what information is being shared with you, so therefore being able to learn. You're there to learn, sure. However, there are certain factors that will help the learning happen easier or happen smoother. And comfort is one of those things, right? Think about us as adults, even in our work setting. If you're uncomfortable, sure, you might do your job, but you might not be happy doing it. You might not have joy doing it. You might not feel fulfilled doing it. The comfort is really important. So that's, those are reasons why I feel like building a relationship is so important in a school setting. And who can benefit from this relationship building? Everyone can. So the teachers can, the parents can, the school leadership can. The leaders of the school, the principals, the vice principals, the director, um, parent coordinators, PTA people, they all, and the students. I hope I said the students because those are actually the first and foremost people that we're here for in the school setting. So they benefit from it. And, you know, when, let me get my train of thought, right? So they all benefit from it for the reasons that I mentioned before, for the comfort, for the camaraderie, for the community, for all of those things. But I find that, so my children, I have 3 children at home, and all 3 of them have been in 9 different schools. I was counting it out before this broadcast. 9 different schools. And I thought about it because I'm like, wow, my children are 15, 12, and 4. And with all of them, they've been across 9 different schools. And I realized it's because we are very selective. So out of those 9 schools, 2 of them are schools that my children experienced, and then we pulled them out. But I'm still counting that because that experience added to a lot of what I'm saying right now. It was a place that, sure, they might have bought substantial academics, but the opportunities for parents to be engaged, the opportunities for, or the teacher's willingness to communicate sucked, right? Or our children didn't feel comfortable. That's not acceptable to me. I'm not willing to compromise a great academic, rigorous, curriculum and whatever for my children's comfort and happiness and, I'm just not. I'm not. Because at the end of the day, they can walk out of there a couple of years later, sure, with great academics and great, have all of these scholarly ways and thoughts and things like that. But if they're miserable, like, I have to see them every day, right? Those are my children. That means that after 5th grade or whatever grade this is that the school goes up to, every single day they have to come home to me. And so if they are unhappy, if they are miserable, if they hate the school, if they think their teacher is mean, if they're scared of their teacher, what does it matter? Like, what does it matter? And so some ways that schools can foster this sense of relationship building, just thinking about that, right? So when it comes to children, I know in the early childhood classroom, when I used to be in the classroom, we used to play a lot of different games with the children, especially in the first month or 2, where they would learn one another's names. And we would do activities. I remember this one activity that I really loved, which you would have the circle, the circle time. You'd have the children on the rug, and you have one child sit in a chair with his or her back turned to the whole circle. So they'd be facing, looking outside the circle. And they couldn't look back to see their friends in the circle, but what a teacher would do, a teacher would tap the shoulder of a child who was in the circle and have the child say a certain line, say a certain word or phrase. And the child who was facing outside the circle had to guess whose voice that might have been and say the name of the friend, right? So this activity would come after you learn the names. But the purpose of that was to see if they can learn, can really hear and recognize the sounds of their friends' voices, because that's important, right? That's one of those important things. And activities as it related to learning who one another, who each of their friends are. We'd have things like have the children's pictures when they first came through the door, and they would put their pictures up. The individual person will put their picture up to say, I'm here today. And you see the picture, and you see the name really big. And even this, for children who are not able to read, they still see the first letter. And then when there are certain children who don't arrive to school, you would say, who's not here? And you have this collection of pictures of the people who were not there. And then as the teacher, when I was in my room, we put that picture up and say, who's not here today? Oh, Leslie's not here today. Oh, Jonathan's not here today. Oh, and there is this constant sense of, even in your absence, you're being acknowledged that you're a part of the community, even though for that day you're not there. And so, of course, as the children get older, the activities change. It's not the same kind of thing. I don't necessarily expect that to be going down in the fifth grade class in that same way, but there's still an acknowledgement of the friends in the community. And so activities where you have the children learning one another, that's one way of fostering that relationship building. Opportunities for parent involvement. So the school that I just pulled my daughter out of, or that we just pulled our daughter out of, one of the things I asked them was what opportunities they have for parent involvement. Like, are there any class parents? Are there any activities that happen, after school that, events, that's the word. Are there any events that happen after school that allow the children and the families to come together? And I'm not talking about like an after-school program. I'm talking about harvest ball, harvest festival, or harvest thing, because that's what the season is right now. And they were like, no. Like, they actually said to me, no, we don't do any of that. There is a PTA committee that meets once a month, and parents are welcome to come there to talk about the business of the school. And I was just like, that is far from what I'm talking about. Like, that is so far from what I'm talking about. That has nothing to do with the children being there, seeing one another. That has nothing to do with parents just engaging very lightly with one another. That has something to do with how you're going to spend your money at the school. And sure, that trickles down, and that impacts my child's school and what they, are going to be exposed to. But that doesn't foster community. That just helps parents to be a part of the decision making somewhat, right? Loosely. Because listen, I attended that first PTA meeting. Not so much, okay? Not even a little bit. First of all, they spoke in Spanish 80% of the time. I'm able to understand it for the most part, but I felt really bad for all of those sitting there who did not know how to. What kind of relationship building is that? It's not. That's what it is, actually. It's not. And so there was that, right? But schools, what they can do, right? Let's not focus on what they don't do, because that's what this school made me really like. I was just like, really, I need y'all to try a lot harder. But schools can do things, parent events, parent involvement, class parents, to have parents advocate for the teachers when speaking to the other parents, like being able to keep them informed on the things that are happening in the classroom. There was none of that. And then a way that teachers themselves, right in their own classroom, can foster that sense of relationship by sharing stories about themselves, right? So I had that teacher tell me about herself and tell the group about herself. But even when parents are not around, it's really nice for the children to understand that outside of the classroom, the teachers are people too, with real lives. So children don't necessarily make that connection, especially at young ages. I remember being a child seeing I think he was my fourth grade teacher. I saw him out in the street. He was driving the car, and I was just like, first of all, I had a little bit of a crush on him too. I remember that. But aside from that, I just remember being a little like, oh snap, like he's outside. He didn't have on his like work clothes. He had on jeans or something. I don't remember. It was far back, but I was just like, wow, he's a person. He has a car. He can drive. That's crazy. And I know when I was a classroom teacher, when I would see my students outside, like in a store, they would look just really shocked. And when they would see me with my children, they would just be like, some children, they wouldn't even speak to me because they they looked shocked and like nervous and a little bit scared that I was outside of the classroom. So in relationship building, share with the children. I used to share with my children, my students, that I had children. I brought in pictures of my babies. I brought in pictures of my husband. My husband worked in the same school with me, so sometimes he stopped by my classroom. And I would say, hi, this is Mr. Thomas, and this is my husband. Yeah, we live in the same house. Let them know you're a person too. It kind of just eases that moment of that tension. Which is why I also, this is like a little bit of a sidetrack, but the schools that my sons went to, elementary schools, and then the school that my daughter is now in, they actually call the teachers on a first name basis. Now I know a lot of people are not down with that. They think that that's a form of disrespect. 1 second, excuse me. Let's see. Okay. They find that to be a form of disrespect, but for me, I don't look at it that way. I feel like, as a teacher, you can command your respect or you can get your respect in so many different ways, and it has nothing to do with the name that they call you unless it's out of your name, right? Like, then that's just disrespectful to anybody. But it's, that's something that schools can do. And then the last thing, like, that leaders that I think can do is they can be present. So when I was a director, I know sometimes it's so hard to leave your desk and leave the stuff that you're doing to be able to greet families and be at the door and talk to the children and, just ask occasional, how are you, and get to know the families. But it's important because it shows that the leadership is also trying to build that relationship. And then, as a parent, some of the things that you can do to help bridge that gap and make that connectivity happen from the relationships that build at the school, and then you can do more at home. Get to know your children's friends. Hear who they talk about they like to play with. Invite those people to your home, or invite those people to meet up with you at the playground. Talk to those parents and say, hey, our children, they talk to one another. They seem to like each other. They seem to get along with one another. Can we get them together? Right now, for me, I'm a little bit antisocial, right? If I'm to be transparent, I am a little antisocial, and so when I pick my daughter up from school, the tendency is like, let's make moves. However, I realize how important it is for them to have those relationships, and so I will say to a parent, like, going to a park afterwards, oh, okay, let's just go, or when my daughter last year, me and a friend of hers and the mother, we went to a museum together, and we spent the day at the museum together. Did I necessarily want to, be there at first? No, because I'm a little antisocial. I totally enjoyed it, though, and my daughter totally had fun, and it was great. And so, and I know it made her and that child's friendship stronger, so that when they went back to school, they were closer. These are the things we have to do, right? So play dates, attend school events, communicate with your teacher, not just when you want to go off, not just that time, right? About the great things you're seeing, about what you're seeing your child bring home from what they are talking about in school. Communicate with your teacher so that they know that they have a friend in you, not friend like, oh, let's go out to drinks, right? Some schools, the teachers do that too with the parents, to each his own. But let them know that they have, that you are willing to talk with them, because when you just want to talk with them so you can beef about stuff, they don't usually want to speak with you. I know that when I was a teacher, that parent, I didn't want anything to do with you, okay? I knew I had to have that conversation with you, but I felt like you were the one who was always like, yeah, and not doing anything to add to the community or help except beef, So, something to think about. That's pretty much it. That concludes the relationship building part of it. It is essential. It is crucial. It is important for children's success in school. And I think that, as this series goes on, I'd love for people to sound off, send me an email. I'm at earlychildhood@sweetpeame.com, earlychildhood@sweetpeame.com. hit me up and let me know, your thoughts about this. The series is supposed to be just 3 parts. It can go longer if anyone has any thoughts that they want to share. And that's about it. So stay tuned. Next week is skill building. So skill building. What types of skills should should schools um, try to foster, and what types of skill building should schools have? And what skills? What skills are we talking about? Is it just academics? Let's talk about it next week. All right. I will see you all next week, next Sunday. As always, hit me up, earlychildhood@sweetpeatme.com. I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.